welcome to another episode of HP Critical. It is a podcast where my friends and I talk all things gaming. My name is Jarrell, and today I am joined by Gabe
Greetings, my humans.
and Brandon. See, that's how we're starting.
Hello, friends. I hope you are having a wonderful day now.
So today's going to be a fun one because we are doing video game impressions. There are two games that came out recently, I think this past week, and there are two games that we've been playing. I personally took up the mantle of playing South of Midnight because I'm black, and you guys took up the mantle of playing Blueprints because you're not. So we're gonna talk about impressions for. I said what I said. We're gonna talk about
That's incorrect.
for both Blueprints and South of Midnight, the latest two games that have come out. Both, a little bit on the indie side, not necessarily indies, but well, Blueprints is. But let's talk all about South of Midnight and Blueprints. And I think since there's two of you, I'll let you guys go first. So first up, what are your initial thoughts, first impressions of Blueprints?
Blueprints. Yeah, let me lead this off because I have some big thoughts about this game.
Ooh, love it.
Yeah. So initially, all I had really heard about this game was pre-release impressions from other people that were saying, yo, the game of the year is not out yet. And I was just like, well, that's intriguing. I want to give this game a try, especially when I heard it was basically like a puzzle game. And I saw a few trailers here or there, so I figured I'd give it a try myself. I think what initially caught me immediately is the very striking art style this game has. It's very graphic novel style, I would say is the best way to describe it. Like, everything looks very well, like it almost looks hand-drawn, even though I don't suspect it actually is, especially since it's like like a 3D game. I don't know how those would work out in that way, but I did like the art style a lot. The premise of the game itself is very interesting. You are playing as a kid named Simon. He is the grand nephew of this eccentric billionaire who has recently passed away and is saying it kind of reminded me of One Piece a little bit, where after Gold Roger died, he was like, my fortune just for taking, but you have to find it. I left everything else. Basically, go find my treasure. So in his will, he says, I leave everything to my grandnephew Simon. However, he has to solve the puzzle of the mansion in order to get his inheritance. So there are 45 rooms in this mansion, allegedly, but he claims that there's a 46th room, that if he can find the 46th room, then all the inheritance will be his. I'm like, wow. So eccentric billionaire indeed, because he really wants to test his nephew to make his nephew do this test just so he can get his damn money. But I was into it. I was into the idea. So you get to the mansion, and this is where the game went into a direction I did not expect. I like the initial stuff that I saw. I knew it was a puzzle game, but I didn't realize it was also a roguelite puzzle game. So you go into this mansion, and for all intents and purposes, you don't technically have a time limit, but you also kind of do. Every time you're in a room, you have a counter at the top left of your screen that has like how many steps you have. Now that will not go down as long as you are in the same room. So as long as you're in a room, you can take as much time as you want to really absorb your surroundings, do any puzzles that may be within that specific room. But yeah, you take as much time as you want. But the minute you walk into another room, that step counter will go down by 1. And so you have a limited amount of steps to go around this mansion. And what I was mentioning about the roguelite elements before, the mansion will change each time you go in. I don't fully understand the mechanics of how that works, but yeah, literally he literally has blueprints that he has,
and you are literally select a blueprint, right, for the next room.
Yes and no. So the blueprint, the rooms that you're given is set up almost like a deck, same way that you would, say Balatro, where every time you about to enter a room, one of 3 rooms will pop up for you randomly selected from your deck of rooms that you could potentially get. Once you have chosen to go through a room, you must choose one of those 3 blueprints to go through. So you can't look at it like, man, these are all garbage, I'm going to try another door. No. Once you have made your decision to go through the door, you must choose one of those, even if they're all crap or if they'll send you to a dead end. You have to do what you got. And there's some items that you can do to augment that, but I'll get to that in a second. But yeah, that's the general flow of the game. You're going into the mansion. you're trying to work your way up into a specific antechamber, which is supposed to have like the 46th floor, but you're having to like puzzle your way through the mansion using the grids and using the specific pathways that each room affords you. Where the difficulty and interesting part of this game comes in, however, is different rooms will have different effects. This is where I'm going to pull out my notes because there are so many different rooms that you can get that I had to like literally write down like some of the stuff that I could do. For example, if you find a bedroom, that's usually a dead end. However, a bedroom will get you extra steps so that you can explore more of the mansion. So if you're about to head into a dead end anyway, that's a good strategy to use a bedroom so you can at least restore your steps. You can go to a closet. Again, also a dead end, but closets get you items. So items can include keys, which can be used to get the open trunks to get you more items. Or the further in the mansion you get, you'll encounter locked doors that you need the keys to even open in the first place. So you want to make sure you have a decent amount of keys. Otherwise, you will not be able to progress after a certain point.
So
Yes.
Excuse me. I just
Sure.
want to ask you a quick question, and feel free to interrupt me when we talk about South of Midnight.
For sure.
I've heard that when you're playing this game, one of the best things to do is to pick rooms that do not have like closed areas, because then you'll kind of be stuck. You always want to pick rooms that are going to have more than one exit. So I've heard you want to kind of avoid closets and bedrooms. I've also heard that one of the best items to use is a set of dice that allows you to re-roll the rooms, I believe it is.
Yes.
And
I'm glad. Yeah. No, I was going to say, I'm glad you brought up all of this because I was going to get more into items in a second, but yes, I can touch on at least the first part of what you said first. Yes, absolutely. If at all possible, you want to avoid dead ends. Like that's like, because that will impede your progress. If you do too many dead ends, you won't be able to make any more progress. And I should also mention, like I said before, you have up to 50 steps each day to go through the mansion. If your steps run out, you must call it a day, and that means leaving the mansion entirely. Your uncle from the grave says you cannot stay in the mansion despite the fact that he gave it to you. So you have to leave the mansion, and when you go back, you start from the beginning and have to redo the rooms. So if you don't, you want to try to make as much progress as you can. So you're not yet, like you said, you're not trying to make dead ends. You are trying to progress as much as possible. But there's a risk reward factor in that too, because if you do make yourself dead ends, you can get yourself these useful items like keys or other tools. One tool that I found is a metal detector. If you have a metal detector, you can find hidden coins and keys because those are made of metal. Coins can be used in certain rooms to buy stuff. Like, for example, you can buy food to get you more steps. You can buy gems. Certain rooms require you to generate, like the better rooms in the game, you need gems to generate them. And if you don't have enough gems, you're not able to create those really good rooms. You want to stack up gems as well for that purpose. And I'm glad you brought up items. Yes, I agree. One of the best items in the game you can get is reroll dice, because if you have a selection of 3 rooms and you just don't like any of those selections, you can reroll that to get different set of rooms that you can go to the next room at. And that's a great item to have. There's even rooms that just let you redraft right then and there.
I don't know if you've encountered this, but one of the other things that I've heard about this game is that you are encouraged to take notes while playing the game, and that eventually there will come a point where you will have to go back and review those notes because you will need them. And there are also times where a lot of things don't necessarily make sense in the beginning until you've unlocked things later on, as in, like, there's a puzzle in the beginning that you won't get until the very end of the game. Is that something that you've encountered, and if so, how are you going through like playing the game and like handling taking notes or understanding how to get through these rooms, etc.?
Yes, so that's a very good question. So the reason why I want to emphasize this is a roguelite and not a roguelike is because there is a steady amount of progression you are making. You are not expected to find the 46th room on your first day. To be perfectly honest, I don't know if it's entirely possible to do so. But you are making steady progress as you go along. You are finding clues. And I did also fail to mention, but this game doesn't have many, but there are some cutscenes in this game. You get one right as the game starts, telling you, setting up the premise of the game about your uncle leaving you this inheritance. But certain rooms will also trigger cutscenes. For example, one of the rooms I got for the first time was a security room, which can not only help you with a puzzle solving later on, but it also lets you generate items in other rooms and find other treasures that way. The first time I got to the security room, there was a cutscene where Simon was just seeing like all the rooms laid out in front of him, kind of like in awe. And another cutscene I got was there's a room, I think it was called the Rumbus room, where they had one of those fortune telling machines where there's kind of like a Swami that's like inside the machine. You know, you drop a coin and he gives you information. So I dropped a coin to see what he would tell me, and it was an entire cutscene about him essentially divining the future. And I was very enthralled about it.
His name
and
was
also,
Swami, and he was divining the future.
his name was not Swami. He was a Swami.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was like, hold on, blueprints.
Yeah, no, and he gave me the info, and he gave me the very cryptic information. So yeah, like as to your question about taking notes and stuff like that. So I did take a few notes of some stuff that I thought was a little interesting, but what I was really doing more often than anything, I was taking a lot of screenshots for this game.
Yeah, I've heard
pretty much any note that I found that looked like it might have interesting information, I would just take a screenshot. It was a lot quicker than making the notes. But to your point, there are some points where I think having notes will be very beneficial to you. I'm sure Gabe will talk about this more in a second when it's his turn to talk about blueprints, but he was doing some math computations not too long before we started. So, you know, when it comes to math, I am terrible at mental math. I am very much a pen and paper type of guy when I do my math calculations. So that's something that I would probably use just as an example.
I've also heard that another good reason to take notes is because you need to keep things in a sequential order, and the best way to do that is by taking notes, because if you're not taking notes and you're just taking screenshots and you need to know what order that room was found in, or where this clue was found in what room, or what order you've done it in, your best bet is to take notes to make sure that when the time comes, you know how that happened. So that's just something I heard for those who plan on playing blueprints.
No doubt. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of notes. A lot of puzzles that your heavy notes will be very beneficial to you. There's all. That's the thing about this game. It has puzzles of all kind of different kinds. You have mathematics puzzles. You have memorization puzzles. You have word puzzles. One of my favorite puzzles is I'm sure we're all familiar with the ones where it's like this one is always telling the truth, this one's always telling the lie, and then trying to figure out that one where there's 3 boxes. Yeah, those are fun. Those are fun to think about. And there's actually different variations of that puzzle too. If you're in an early room, you'll get a really easy version of the truth and the lie riddle. You go later on, they'll really try to make you really think about it. So the puzzles do ramp up the further you are going into the mansion. They're quote unquote randomized, but they will be harder versions the further in you are, and the rooms that you are getting will be more difficult as well. On that note as well, the rooms have different colors. Like, for example, purple rooms are usually healing rooms. Yellow rooms are about exchanging items to gain more, exchanging money to gain more items. You have a blue room. Those are usually like I think those are the traversal rooms, if I'm not mistaken. Green rooms are lucky rooms. Red rooms are bad. Red rooms are just straight up rooms that have like the worst. One of the worst ones is just the lavatory, which is a dead end that gets you nothing. So you don't want that. And there's another red room, like for example, a chapel. Plenty of ways to go. You can go left, right, or down. But every time you enter the chapel, you have to pay 1 coin. Or the gymnasium. You go in the gymnasium, you have to pay 2 extra steps in addition to the step taken in there. That'll cost you very fast if you're going to the gymnasium too often. So you got to be careful of those red rooms because they can really mess up your run if you're not careful. But overall, I mean, I'll have more to say in a second. But I'm impressed with this game. I will say, like, it's definitely having you. I understand why people are holding it in high regard. It is a puzzle game. It reminds me a lot of the escape rooms I used to do when I was younger. There's certain games that are like that style as well, like the 999. Yeah, the games like that. Thank you. I couldn't remember the title for a second. But yeah, the nonary games definitely giving you those kind of like puzzles there to like really.
Did either of you play Lorelei and the Laser Eyes last year?
No, I did not.
It's giving me those vibes, and that is a great game.
I see. Oh yeah, no, I heard. I did hear about Lorelei and Laser Eyes. That it was a similar kind of game where it really did encourage you to take notes into or
that's just hard. Those puzzles are hard as fuck. Like some of those puzzles are so easy, and then some of those puzzles like they're so difficult. But in that game, you are basically you arrive at a mansion, and then this guy that you're supposed to contact, he dies, and so like you will die if you don't figure out that. It's like a cool like murder mystery style game, but it also has those puzzles. And so to that effect, how did you like the puzzles in the game? Like both of you, because I know Gabe hasn't been able to share his opinion yet. So how did you both like the puzzles in the game?
I'll go ahead and say this last thing, and then I'll use that as a baton pass. I'll say this. I'll answer your question, but I'm also going to let Gabe answer. That'll be the baton pass for him to give his thoughts. But yeah, so the puzzles themselves, I like the most of the ones I found. I enjoy. I enjoy. With me, I'm funny about puzzles. Like I enjoy very straightforward puzzles. If I'm being perfectly honest with you, so the whole truth and the lie ones, I absolutely love those kind of puzzles. Those are very neat. Puzzles where you have to this password it's your last name, and then take this letter and then to use that to basically form a number, something like that. So stuff like that where you have to but the stuff. I'll be completely transparent. I love what this game is doing, but games where you have to memorize things for a long period of time and have the notes ready at the time like that, not really my personal favorite. But I really appreciate what it's doing. So there are some puzzles I really enjoy. Other ones but I'll let Gabe talk for a little while now.
I like some of the puzzles. I haven't played the game as much as Brandon, but some of the puzzles that I have come across are pretty fun. Absolutely despise that 2 lies and a truth one. Fuck that box. I am 1 for 3 on that puzzle. And the only one is because it was quite blatantly the easiest one. It was so there's 3 boxes obviously. One of the boxes is blue, the other one is white, and I think the other one is black.
Yeah.
So the blue box says this blue is white. The black box says it says something whatever, but it was a very obvious truth, and I'm like, well, thanks for finally.
It was the only one I was telling. It was the only one that was telling the truth. Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't like math, but the dart puzzle, the math puzzle, is actually pretty fun for me. I refuse to pick up my calculator, and so some of them I've had to restart 1,000 times because I keep forgetting. That each. If you play the game, you'll see each color means something else. Whether you're adding to the other number, you're subtracting, or multiplying. Which is another thing. I don't know if the rule book was around somewhere in that room that told you how to play that puzzle. I kind of had to figure it out by myself. But it's pretty cool. In terms of the game as a whole, though, I don't want to sound like a hater. It's not a $30 game for me. It really it's if you've heard about the game and it's piquing your interest, but you have a problem with Mario Kart being $80. This game's not. There was a correlation there. I lost it. Whatever. $30 is not worth it for me. Anyway, but I will say it is a good game. Unlike Brandon, I haven't heard shit about this game. It was mentioned last week to me, and I was like, I guess I'll try it out. Although I originally knew it as Blueprints because somebody couldn't figure out how to say Blueprints correctly. Won't say any names. Our beloved leader.
Wow. Okay. It was not me. It was Siri.
Yeah, I'll give you that one. I'll give you that one. And then to me, the other thing, something I really wish the game had a little bit more of was music, because I get it, it's like a puzzle game and a puzzle mystery game, but it's a little boring to just be walking around and hearing your own footsteps. Although some of the rooms you can make have their own ambiance to it, like the hallways, for example. The hallways sound terrifying. You walk in a hallway and all you hear is wind, and I'm like, what is going on? And for whatever odd reason, I always have this feeling as if something's chasing me around that house. There's not, but sure? I don't know. I hope not. I hope to God not, because I'm already scared enough as it is. The security room freaked me out a little bit, I will be honest, because it's just a whole bunch of cameras looking everywhere, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what's going on here?
Oh, real quick before you continue, there actually one thing I forgot to mention that I want to say before I forget. As you're going through the rooms yourselves, in addition to information that's helping you solve the puzzles, that's also how the game is conveying its narrative as well. For example, you will find notes here or there that the late owner of the mansion set to people that work there. For example, I went to the servants' quarters, and he wrote a note basically to his butler, basically thanking him for all his service and, you know, politely saying, hey, you've worked for me for a long time. You should perhaps resign. You could train the next guy, but I think it's time that for all the years of service you've given me, it's time for the next generation to step up, basically.
That
Something
sounds
to
like
that
a nice way to fire somebody.
It is the nicest
Like,
term. It
I
is
don't
the
even know if it's
nicest.
nice because you're losing your job.
It is the nicest way you say you're fired I've ever seen in my life. It's probably the best way. But you find notes like that here and there throughout the game, and it kind of conveys. Outside of those blatant cutscenes I mentioned, it's one way that the story of the game is kind of presented to you as well. And it kind of reminded me of a game called Gone Home, where that game was told, and its narrative was entirely told through messages that you found within the world. So it's something I did appreciate for that reason. But that's all I want to say. Continue, Gabe.
I forgot what I was going to say.
Okay.
But
knew that
I
would
do
happen.
like I do like the way the game is set up, where you have to create your own pathway to where you need to get to. Everyone's been saying you got to use notes and whatnot. I don't mean to brag, but I'm playing on hard mode, so I'm playing by memory, and I've gotten halfway through that map. I did block myself in. I'm pretty sure it could have been avoided, but I did make it halfway without notes. So just putting that out there. But yeah.
So one of the things that we're hearing a lot about blueprints that I want you guys to talk about the next 10 minutes or so is that it is currently one of the highest rated games out this year in 2025. And we're talking Monster Hunter Wilds came out this year, for example. Based on your experience, and I know that obviously we all play very different games. I'm not really a puzzle game person, but I will enjoy a puzzle game or two. And it does sound like Blueprints is the type of game that I should at least pick up and try, because it's available on Game Pass.
Game
I have
Pass,
Game
yeah.
Pass, so I will definitely probably give it a try.
And it's also, if you are a PlayStation Extra or above member, it's also available
available
for free there as well.
Yep. Excuse me. So just hearing, that this is the highest reviewed game of the year, and having at least had your own hands-on impressions of it, where does it stand? And I know that you guys are not finished with the game, but where does it stand so far to you as far as how good this game is? Would you recommend it to other people based on your impressions? I know I've already heard about the price being too expensive from Gabe. So aside from the price, just the product itself.
I would say if you're someone that really enjoys puzzles, brain teasers, and having your narrative spread out at your own pace, this is something I would definitely highly recommend. I won't say here that definitively that I think this game is fully for me. Like, some of the puzzles are not quite my cup of tea, but I recognize the quality of this game, assuredly. It is incorporating a lot of elements of there's a lot of latent elements to it too, because Layton had a different menagerie of puzzles as well to itself as you solve the mysteries of those given games. But this one is a lot less straightforward than that, because with Professor Layton, there's always one solution to this. Mm-hmm. I get the impression with Blueprints that
there's more than one solution.
There is. I think that there may not only be one way to finish this game based on all the different rooms that you can get. I don't think that you would need to necessarily even get through every puzzle. I think I'm very much getting the impression that you're going to be presented with a lot of different puzzles, and some of them are going to be very necessary to get through. But I don't think that's going to be the case for all of them. I think some of them are going to very wildly depend on your skill level or your level of effort or how much you want to put into it. And I think that's going to be different for everyone. But at the end of the day, I think if you're someone that does really enjoy puzzles of all different kinds, to be very clear, I think this is something that you should definitely pay attention to.
Okay.
Yeah, I think if this is the genre of game you like to play, at least one of the genres of games you like to play, definitely go out and get it. But if it's not a game it's not a game type you normally play, I think it'd be more fun to watch somebody play it on YouTube.
So if you don't like roguelikes or you don't like puzzle adventure games, it's a pass. Not even.
Well, hold on. I want to be clear. I think this is something that even if you're not a roguelike fan, that you should pay attention if you like puzzles, because I'm not a huge roguelike fan. There's a few exceptions to that, but I'm not. Roguelikes I absolutely despise, but roguelites, there's a few that have attracted me over the years, like Hades, for example, or the Splatoon 3 DLC. That's, roguelites where you do get some progress carried over forward, that kind of stuff. But I would say even if that's not a genre that you normally gravitate towards, I would still give this game a try. I think really the deciding factor is your love of puzzles or not. If you don't like puzzles, this game is really not going to be for you. But if you like puzzles, and you may not necessarily even like roguelites or have no opinion to them, you should still give this game a try.
Okay, that is a critically acclaimed game that's only been out for 7 days, so
Yeah.
it definitely gives people a lot of time to try it. So finally, I'm just gonna ask you guys, just a yes or no.
Okay.
Do you recommend Blueprints?
Yes.
Brandon? Gabe?
No.
All right, cool. So listeners, decide for yourself because that's a yes and a no, and I haven't tried it yet, so I can't give you my opinion. So it is definitely one of those games where you're gonna have to find out for yourself. Blueprints is, like I mentioned, a puzzle adventure game with roguelike elements, developed by Dogubomb and published by Raw Fury, according to Wikipedia. And it is available, like we mentioned, on Game Pass, as well as the PlayStation Plus Extra tier. So not the plain tier, but the one above that. You can play Blueprints and figure out for yourself. Thank you, Gabe and Brandon, for your impressions on Blueprints. Any last comments?
I love when games take established genres and do something different with them. It's always a nice thing to see.
What was done differently?
Oh, the fact that the fact that it's incorporating so many puzzles into its narrative and combining with that with roguelike elements. I think that's a pretty cool combination that I wouldn't have really considered.
Fair. It reminds me of, I don't know if either of you have played the board game Betrayal at House on the Hill.
Ooh, yes. I'm sorry. I'm glad you mentioned that,
It
actually.
reminds me of
I'm glad you mentioned that, actually, because going through this game, it very much feels like this was
Like
designed as a
building
tabletop
the
game.
house that you're going
Yeah.
through. Like, I got that tabletop feel from what I played.
This would go crazy as a tabletop game, honestly. I don't know how you
go crazy as a tabletop game. Crazy as a tabletop game. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and talk a little bit about South of Midnight. South of Midnight is the action-adventure game developed by Compulsion Games and published by Xbox Games Studios. It also came out April 8th, the day after Blueprints. I've been playing South of Midnight, and I'm just going to upfront say it is probably my favorite game that I played this year.
Nice.
I've played a lot this year. Including Monster Hunter Wilds, which I did also enjoy, which we still have to play together and talk about and have a whole session on, even though it was, a couple months ago. But
Monster Hunter Wilds lasts a while. It's all good.
You're right. They're still getting updates. It'll last forever. South of Midnight is my favorite game that I played this year. There is something very special about it. First of all, I will just say that it is available on Game Pass as well. So if you have Game Pass, I implore you to give it a try. You're going to hear a bunch of people talk shit about it because it stars a black woman and it talks about black individuals and history and culture. So people are going to talk shit, but don't listen to them. Just literally try the game for yourself. The first thing I noticed is just how pretty this game is. And I'm so used to, I'm a graphics whore, and literally I turned it on, I was like, there's no way this game looks as good. And it looks better than any game I've played so far this year. So first of all, the graphics are amazing. I know that a lot of people, including I think Gabe, had concerns about the way that they animated it because it's like stop motion animation, so it can look like it's just like bad frame rates. It literally does not look like it's bad frame rates. Like when you're actually playing the game, you see the stop motion like stuttering, but it fits so well with like the design of the game, including the way the game is designed is just amazing. The character designs are so good. Like the mythical creature designs are also so good. Like everything is so fantastical in the game, but it's also rooted in culture and experience, and like it's such a special. It's really hard to describe. Like it's such a special presentation, and a lot of it has to like it's not like some deep story, right? Like it's not like you really have to invest yourself in this, but it's basically it follows Hazel, this girl in a fictionalized deep south area. And the basic premise is that there's a hurricane coming, and her mom, like in the very beginning, this isn't spoilers, her and her mom are like preparing for the hurricane. And from the very beginning of the game, one of the things that I loved is that you can really see the passion and dedication that goes into this game, because there are a lot of black isms in this game because Hazel is black, as is her mother, and her father is white, so she's mixed race, but she's black presenting, and like she's raised by her mom because her father is. Oh, my cat, sorry. So her father's not there for story reasons. She was raised by her mother, and so the first thing that she does is like her and her mom create this little like song together when they're packing, and it is such a like black person thing to do. And as you like go through her house, you'll see a bunch of references to like black artwork that is not exactly the same, but if you are in that culture you will have seen the reference from it. Like there's one that's like, and this is not the one I'm talking about, but there is one, there's a poster on our wall called Fangs, and it's giving the Hiss poster from Megan Thee Stallion, for example. She runs track, and she has like this whole like everything. There's a lot of attention to detail paid into the culture and who Hazel is, and it's such a special thing to see in a video game, and it really makes you feel connected to Hazel, and her mom, who is a social worker, and her neighbors, and everyone in their tiny little like American deep South area. And then the game takes the the culture and the mysticism and everything about it, and takes that like realism but makes it also fantastical. And it's just it tells a story in segments, and so you're kind of going around and you have to defeat these legendary creatures of lore, to basically free them from the troubles that they're dealing with. But each of these stories is actually very, I don't want to say deep, but they were like, I was a little shocked by how dark some of the stories can be. Like they definitely include like trigger warnings, and I can't tell you about them because they would like spoil the experience, and I don't want to spoil anyone. But even the first story that Hazel like goes through, I was like, that it takes you to a place where I was like, oh, I didn't expect that, but that's pretty dark. Like this person did something really, really bad, and it wasn't something that I thought the game would tackle. And then the next, even the story after that, this woman did something really, really bad. Like, and a lot of these do involve the death of other people. So like you're finding out about the people that Hazel is around in the game, and these are people that she knows, and she's kind of uncovering their darkest secrets. So it's like if I'm walking around and I discover that Gabe has killed someone in his past, and I find out why he killed that person, but I don't know that side of Gabe. I know him as like the person that I'm on the podcast with. And so you kind of experience all of that as Hazel. And she fights Haints, and which are ghosts. And very interestingly, the combat, maybe I just suck at games, but like it ain't that easy. It's not difficult. Like, to be clear, the combat is not hard. But it's, you have to get used to it, and it takes a lot of like, you have these abilities that you can do, like you get like magical abilities that you can perform. However, the timing is very specific on them, and the challenge comes in because the game will throw like 5 enemies at you at once, and you have to know how to do every skill available to you to be able to handle them. And by that, I mean, like, you have 2 Haints that are running around that are going to hit you if you don't perfect dodge, right? And then while you're doing that, there's another, like, really creepy thing that's crawling on the floor and spitting at you. And then there's another one that's going underground that's going to pop up at you. And all of this is happening at the same time. And you are, like, literally one person, and all you have at your disposal are your abilities. Now, one of your abilities is, like, you can take control of one of the monsters and it'll attack another one. Another one is that you can pause one of the enemies while you fight another one. And then you have like abilities that you can upgrade that'll allow you to deal more damage. So like you have ways to do it. However, a lot of the combat is managing your ability so that you don't fucking die. I've died a lot. And it's not even hard. It's just like you have to learn how to do it. I will say there are segments of it that are just a little janky. There was one boss fight that I was doing, and I literally couldn't figure out how to block this one attack, like how to avoid this one attack, and the game didn't tell me how to avoid that one attack.
Oh.
And I spent I had to do that boss twice. It's the only boss I've had to do twice. The rest of them, like, they're relatively very easy. Like, I would say the regular battles are harder than the boss battles. Um, and it kind of got me annoyed because it's a little janky in places. But overall, there's so much heart. There's so much personality. Like, Hazel is such a great protagonist, and she really is just this, like, she is that black girl that you know. Like, it is very much written in a way of, like, this is super authentic, which I really loved. Like, even the tutorial, when you're going through the game, the tutorial is literally you following these ghosts as they're escaping slavery, and then you go through the slave houses that they were kept in, and like you're learning abilities from them as you go through the entire tutorial is literally you learning the abilities from these people as they're escaping. Like, that is the central. That's in the very beginning. Like, that's the central theme of this game, to give you an idea of like what this game is and how important it is. I think it's such an important game that everyone should give a chance to. And it's gorgeous. The combat's fun. The story is enthralling. It's available on Game Pass. And yeah, I personally think everybody should give South of Midnight a chance. I can't uptalk it anymore. Like, it's such a... it's like better. I liked... What was that game that I liked with Frey as the protagonist?
Oh my gosh, bro. It's
Forspoken.
Forspoken, you fake fan.
Okay. Forspoken. I liked Forspoken. This is like Forspoken, but better on an indie scale. Like, it's so it's great. It's a lot of fun.
What do you mean by that?
Because Square Enix published Forspoken, and it's this like huge AAA title, and it's long.
Oh, okay,
it's like,
okay. I get
and
it.
then South of Midnight is very compact. It's like take away the open world and make it this one story in this one area. And there's some potential racial tensions between Hazel and her grandmother, and it's just really good. And I need everyone to play it because it is the best game I've played this year so far. Do you guys have any questions for me about South of Midnight?
I do.
What's the music like?
Oh yeah, you have that.
I'm so happy that you brought that up. So it's very weird. It's very weird because I think the music is good, but I don't think the songs are good. But the songs are really cool. So there's music. There's like background music that is very moody, and I feel like it fits the Southern Gothic American culture so well. Like, that's done so good. But then once you start getting into the stories of these individuals, they have songs that are sung by like choirs with kids that are singing about the boss situation. So, for example, let's say, I'll use Brandon this time. Let's say, like, Brandon killed his cousin by drowning them. So, like, as you're going through the story, the more that the closer that you get to finding out that Brandon killed his cousin by drowning him, eventually you'll start hearing a song, and the song lyrics will be like, Brandon, he killed his cousin by drowning him. And, like, that happens for every boss battle. Like, you hear the background of what happened, and it's so fucking creepy because it's these like kids singing about how Brandon killed his cousin, and like it works. I just personally don't like it. I prefer the music over the song because sometimes I have to turn it up to even understand the lyrics, because it is literally like they'll have like a lead vocalist, and then they'll have like kids as a background, and they're just singing about how Brandon killed his cousin. It's kind of creepy, but it works really well. So I like the music. I don't like the song because they're kind of creepy. But I guess that works because the subject matter is not happy.
Well, I have another question that just came to mind as he asked that. Well, before I get to that one, actually, more important question. You touched on combat a little bit earlier. How would you describe the specific genre of this game? Like, you mentioned, like, combat. Like, is this like a character action adventure, action RPG? So there's RPG elements too.
You do have skills that you can upgrade for like your combat.
I see.
But like just like an action adventure game.
So does Hazel have levels, skill tree, stuff like that?
You don't have levels, but you do have a skill tree, and so like you can collect these floofs. They're called because they're like little fluffy things, and they allow you to upgrade your abilities. So she doesn't like level up, but you can level up your abilities.
Okay, that makes sense to me. Okay, that explains a lot. The art style. Well, you mentioned the art style. I guess a better question is like the color palettes itself. is it basically all kind of like dark brownish colors, or is there some other kinds of that pop in depending
No,
on the environment?
actually, it is pretty colorful. Like surprisingly,
Okay.
even though it's like a dark tone, there are so basically when you go around, the world is very dark. But
Mhm.
what Hazel is doing is she's kind of like getting rid of all the negative air, like negative energy in the world, and when she does that, it turns into like flowers, and so it brightens
Ooh,
up.
I
So
like
it's
that a
very
lot
much like a,
actually.
it's a dark theme, but once you start clearing the area, it looks much brighter, and like the sunset is beautiful. Like I literally was walking past something and I stopped and just like looked. I meant to take a screenshot but I didn't, but I was just like, damn, this is like a beautiful like pink orange sky and like hazel there. And you wouldn't I don't think you would expect that based on what you've seen from like trailers, because it doesn't look like that's what the game is. But no, yeah, it's not all dark.
Okay. Last question I guess I have for the time being is you were mentioning when you were discussing the story mode of the game how much of the games the world and like the characters is very much rooted in Black culture. Would this for someone that is not of that culture, would this game help to educate them? Would it tell them like kind of give them a better sense of things? I guess is the best way to sort of ask.
No.
So
uh
okay. So is
so
it so is it better if you like you already kind of have already understand an understanding of
So
it?
kind of like the Megan the Stallion example I gave. If you
Okay,
are not like, if you don't know, then you won't know. It's kind of like,
got it.
if you are black, you will see these things. If you're not black, you won't see them. However, the story itself isn't about. I wouldn't say the story is about her being black and her black experience.
Hmm.
However, I'm not done. I do
Sure.
know that a part of the story is because, like I mentioned, her dad is white and she's her and her mom are black and her dad is white, so technically she's mixed. And her grandmother, who on her dad's side is a bit of an antagonist.
Hmm.
So there is that like racial tension style thing that happens. However, the stories that you're hearing about and the people that you're hearing about is not about her race or her culture.
Got it.
Um, so like, I think there are things that you'll notice if you are within like the black culture. You will definitely be like, oh shit, like this is definitely something I would do or something that I would see or something that I would say. But I think if you're not, you would definitely miss all those references. But I do think it's cool that they're there.
Okay, so it's just references. You don't feel like if someone wouldn't get those references, they'd still be able to enjoy what's
Oh,
being presented to them.
absolutely. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah. It
cool,
is
cool.
100% like a picture on a wall that you might notice. It is not like, oh, I don't get this like overarching story, because
Gotcha.
everybody's gonna understand that Brandon killed his cousin, right? Like it's
Yeah,
not like a, you don't have to be Puerto Rican to understand that Brandon killed his cousin.
sure. That's all the questions I had. Yeah, it definitely does sound interesting. I think it's I like that the stop motion in motion ended up working out because I know in trailers there are some people like, is this gonna look good when the game is actually going down? Is it because like I love like I enjoy the idea of stop motion as being presented as your primary art style for a video game, and it's obviously worked really well in a lot of movies. Like we have examples like The Nightmare Before Christmas for Kubo and the Two Strings, which are fantastic stop motion films. Um, but I admit I was worried when I saw this game trailer. I was like, ooh, when the game actually goes, is it gonna still have that stop motion feel, or is it just gonna feel like a low ass frame rate? So I'm glad to hear.
So I
Yeah.
will, just to clarify that, just 100% to clarify that, it is. It almost feels exclusively like a stylistic choice, in the
Mm,
sense that like you will not feel like it's stop motion. You won't even notice it all the time. Like
mm.
it's not like you're gonna be playing and you'll see her like, like no,
Ah,
her
okay.
motion is smooth. Like
Got it.
it is
Okay.
100% a stylistic choice that you notice when they want you to notice it. Otherwise, the frame rate feels 100% on. Like it doesn't even feel stop motion. Like I've only noticed it like artistically when something is happening, like in a
Mm,
cutscene, or if I'm walking like slowly and then you see that like it's her and not the world around her, so you know that it's not a frame rate dip. Like it's a stylistic choice and you can tell that it is. So I wouldn't even tout it as like stop motion really, because you probably won't even notice it until the game
sure.
wants you to, in like a cutscene or something. And even then, not all cutscenes are that way. Or maybe I've just gotten used to it. Like, but it's definitely not a concern. It is a really cool stylistic choice that really works with the art direction that the game has taken, and I think it's such a cool art direction. Honestly, one of
It
the
is
best ones I've seen.
It is cool. It is cool, and games can achieve that. I think the closest example I have that I remember was in I think it was either or both Spider-Man Miles Morales and Spider-Man 2. One of the costumes you could get for the game was the Miles Morales Spider-Verse costume from those films. And when you are in those outfits, Miles' individual frame rate changes to kind of like how it was in those particular films. So I thought was really cool effect. And I think in Spider-Man 2 they even gave you the toggle option. It was like, if you don't like that happens, you can also just make it that you're just wearing Miles' outfit, but it doesn't change the frame rate too, which is a nice little option as well. So that's cool. It's very cool.
It's just a really pretty game. I was actually really shocked that it looked so good. Like I was, because I thought it was gonna look like not good. Like I didn't think it would be graphically that good looking, and I've just been like, damn, this is the prettiest game I've played in a while, since probably Rebirth on PS5 Pro. Like this is the next prettiest game that I've played after that, because that game's just nothing's gonna beat that on PS5 Pro. It's just not gonna be beaten. Any last questions?
One actually, another one just came up now as you mentioned it. This is obviously a big marquee title for Xbox/PC at the moment. Given Microsoft's recent strategies of porting some of their games over to other platforms, what is the likelihood you see this game leaving Xbox and going to PlayStation itself? Do you see it likely, not likely, something will happen down the road? What are your thoughts?
Compulsion Games, did they have any other games that came? I think they have several games that have come to PlayStation, right?
I'm not as familiar with them. If I saw their game list, I'm sure you're probably right.
They did yes, because We Happy Few, they did Contrast, which was that PlayStation 4 like first free game on PS Plus for PlayStation 4, if I remember correctly. Contrast, if anybody remembers that was like years ago.
Yeah, that was a while ago.
They also did We Happy Few, which I'm pretty sure is multi-platform. Yeah, it was on PlayStation 4 and Xbox. So I'm sure it'll come to PlayStation. Like I would be shocked if it doesn't. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it'll come to PlayStation. I don't know what the reviews are looking like though, and I wish I did, because I feel like that would give me a better understanding. But from my understanding, it does have positive reception. It looks like it got at least 3 out of 5s, some 9s out of 10s, and 3 out of 5. So yeah, 8.5s, 8s. 4s out of 5, yeah, pretty decent. But I don't know, because I also feel like this is one of those games where reviewers didn't really dig into everything the game had to offer. So yes, I'm going to talk a little bit about reviewers. I know I usually don't do that, so I'm sorry. But just based on the reviews that I've seen, a lot of things that like I experienced as a black person playing this game, I feel like kind of went over a lot of the heads of the reviewers. And I feel like because of that, they don't really get the it's kind of like when people reviewed Forspoken, and they were like, oh, she doesn't sound like a real black person, or like she's too like whatever, blah blah blah, before actually playing the game. And then as a black person who played the game, I was like, nah, like Frey's totally fine. The cuff is the fucking problem, but like Frey's totally fine, and these people are just bitching and complaining, or they just don't understand. And I feel like, and I know I sound like a loser, I guess, but I do think that with South of Midnight, some of these reviewers just don't really get it, and that's okay, because it's not for everyone to understand. And I don't mean that as like the game in general, because like I mentioned, the game in general is rooted in the culture, but you don't have to be black to enjoy it or understand it. I just mean that like there are those subtle things that you might miss out on when you're reviewing this game if you don't understand. And I feel like a lot of people who gave it like 3 out of 5 don't really get it. And that's okay, because not everything is for everyone. But my final explanation is yes, you should play this game. Whether it's a yes or no, yes, you should play this game. I know it's like $50, which I also still feel like it's not a long game. So 50 does feel kind of steep for something that is not that long. You can probably beat the whole game in like 10 to 15 hours, 16 hours. I think completionist is like 16 hours on how long to beat, so it's not long. And because of that, $50 does seem pretty steep. I would say like 30 to 45. I would probably buy this immediately outright if you wait for a sale. And I would suggest that everyone play this game on their own. Don't really go into it with like assumptions. Just play it for what it is, and you'll get a really good story. Any final questions?
That's all I got.
Okie dokie, that was fun. Nice, cool impressions. I'm gonna play some Blueprints after I finish South of Midnight. I'm gonna play some Blueprints after I finish South of Midnight. If it ever does come to PlayStation, I do suggest that you guys play it. I also suggest that any listeners who have Xbox Game Pass, that's where I'm playing it on. It's well worth your time. It's a gorgeous game. It's a lot of fun. I'll check out some Blueprints later. Also, if you haven't played Lorelei and the Laser Eyes, another great game from last year that I played. Really, really fun. If you like puzzles and you don't want to play $30 for Blueprints, go play Lorelei. It's like half that cost, probably like $15 or less. Thank you, Brandon. Thank you, Gabe. This has been a fun impressions episode. We will not be doing impressions next week because we will be playing Expedition 33, probably.
Yes, sir.
And then we'll talk about that after. So next week you guys will get something else. In the meantime, that's it. Bye, everybody.
Nope, farewell.